This will be mirrored from the bearded heretic, if it ever, yeah, you know, stops the circle thingy, the buffering. I call it the never-ending circle jerk, but my apologies for the screen. I'll leave it in this direction from now on out. Maybe it'll start, maybe it won't. I'm not leaving links anymore because I'm starting to think that AI picks up on the links. So you can look up the bearded heretic yourself. There you go. Okay. Time to start paying attention.
So you make the documentary. The position's been given. Data shows us in 1975, 1 in every 5,000 kid has autism. 1982, 1 in 2,500. 1994, 1 in 500. 2000, 1 in 166. 2004, 1 in 150. 2009, 1 in 110. 2011, 1 in 68. 2013, 1 in 45. Projected 2032, 1 out of every 2 kids is going to have autism. Correct. That's catastrophic, right? You put the documentary out there. Tribeca turns it down. Robert De Niro, who is somebody politically would have typically disagreed with someone like you, but because at the time his 16-year-old son has autism, he's around 21, 22 today, he's emotionally connected to it, and he's trying to hold himself back. He says, I believe everybody should watch this, right? Okay. Yeah. Everybody starts looking at this. Emails you've gotten from both sides. People.
Look, we can agree and disagree politically, but when reality comes into play, we need to start paying attention and join forces.
That I've connected with you from both sides. What's been the best argument you've gotten from those who say, Del, you're a fool, you're absolutely wrong, you're not even looking at it from this standpoint, why are you still doing this arguing about vaccine? This is a hoax, this is a propaganda, you're hurting so many kids' lives, you're doing this. I work on the doctor's television show, so I started asking every doctor I knew, including hosts on the doctors, and I said, if I'm wrong, show me where I'm wrong. I want off this road. I mean, I'm all about the truth. Please show me, explain to me what I'm missing here. How is this data wrong? How is it? Show me a study that can disprove what we're seeing here. And I'll be honest, no one has ever actually done that. They cannot say that they're safe, period. Full stop, end of story. I'm not anti-vaccine.
I am going to try to stop swearing like a machine gun on my channel. I do sincerely apologize for that. And I think I lost a lot of subscribers because of it. I just get so frustrated.
I'm anti-injecting, number one, products that don't go through safety studies, and number two, products that have liability protection, meaning I cannot sue the manufacturer if it does injure me or does injure my children. And the reason that's problematic is I know since they've never been able to be sued since the 1986 Act that took all liability away, there's been no market incentive to evolve the science of vaccines. They have absolutely zero risk. So you know, money people, why would anybody spend money for no reason to evolve a product and make it safer than it already is if you can't sue them anyway? Vaccine, COVID-19, them telling us the fact that, you know, it's the most important vaccine we got to take if it comes out. Now, obviously, at this point of the game, you don't seem very confident about any of the vaccines yourself. But if they come out with this vaccine and they're presenting it to us that we ought to take it, whether it's Fauci or Gates, how confident are you in us needing to take this COVID-19 vaccine? Well, not at all. In fact, I know you don't. For the most part, 99% of this country and the world do not need to take it. I mean, every scientific report has shown us that over 99% of us, this is a common cold. That's just the fact. It's a common cold. It is only deadly for 0.26% now of Americans. And we're seeing even a decline in the death rates because I think we're actually learning that we were treating it incorrectly. So what we're talking about is a vaccine that 99.74% of us don't even need. That's the case. Just like a cold, this is going to be the sniffles for most people. And people say, you're crazy. No, listen to how many times they say the term asymptomatic carrier, right? That means someone that is so not sick, they don't even know that they're carrying it. That is the greater body of people. And then if you're not that, then you're someone that just has a light cold. There's an acute, extreme response for 0.26% of our population that have other life-threatening illnesses that are putting them in harm's way. And by the way, a common cold has always been dangerous from people that are on the late stages of heart disease or COPD or diabetes, and that's what we're seeing. But let's talk about this vaccine. Number one, I'm never against any vaccine that they recommend for people to take. Go right ahead. It's a free country. I have a problem with the languaging that this is going to be forced. Bill Gates is saying he wants a forced vaccination program for all 7.5 billion people in the world. I believe that this pandemic has been blown out of proportion in order to force the entire adult population into a mandated vaccine program just like our children are at. In fact, I've been predicting that for the last 3 years on every stage I speak on. This has been a goal by the WHO for many years, and now we're seeing it. I believe this pandemic is being used to create such difficulty in our lives. We can't go to work. We're losing our money. We have to wear a mask. We got to stay 6 feet apart. We can't kiss. We can't hug. Also, they make us so miserable, so when they rush this vaccine out, we go, fine, I'll take it if that's what it's going to take to get our lives back to normal. But no,
it won't.
It won't just be that vaccine. The moment you allow the government to say you have to take it, you just bought into the vaccine program for every adult. And guess what? You didn't get the 54 vaccines your children are getting. Now you have to catch up on 54 vaccines. Guess what? 270 vaccines are already approved and in the pipeline you've never heard of. And thousands of vaccines are in trials right now as we speak, because the future of the industry is a product that doesn't test for safety, as I told you, has no liability, and can be forced on you by government mandates. It's the greatest product pharma's ever had, and it happens to be your future if you don't stand up for your rights. If you read every headline, it's telling us, Patrick, there's 2 words in a sentence that I think make it the most dangerous sentence known to man. Every time you read, they are rushing the science. That is what we read in every headline talking about COVID-19. I'm not exaggerating it. We are rushing science.
Isn't that what President Trump did with Operation Warp Speed? Beginning to have my doubts about him, too.
Now let's talk about this vaccine. It is not a brand new vaccine. It is not another version of a measles vaccine. They have been attempting a coronavirus vaccine for the last at least 20 years. Very specifically, since we had SARS, which was a coronavirus back in the early 2000s, multiple drug companies have been attempting to make a coronavirus vaccine. Here's what's amazing, and I discovered in our research. Every single animal trial by all of those different drug companies and different approaches to a coronavirus vaccine had the same result. In every one of the trials, they used ferrets. It's a popular animal. I think it has a similar immune system to human beings. They gave them their trial COVID or coronavirus vaccine, and the animals seemed to be doing just fine. They would have said it's safe. Look, the animal's fine. Vaccine didn't hurt them. They even checked their blood, and they were having robust antibody production, meaning it looks like it really works. And they're probably all jumping up and down in their laboratories. But here's what happens. In an animal trial, you're allowed to go one step further than you're ethically allowed to in a human trial. That's called a challenge study, where they actually put the animal in contact with the virus. Can't do this with human beings. But they put the ferrets in contact with coronavirus, and every single one of the trials had the same problem. Instead of the antibodies protecting...
And there we go again. Go figure, right?
The animal from the coronavirus, the antibodies actually help the virus attack their own immune system, and it overreacted. They had serious...
Yeah. Yeah, YouTube don't like my
upper
channel
respiratory
either.
conditions, organ failure, what's called a cytokine storm, meaning the immune system sent their body into inflammation and brain all over. Many of the animals died. It was...
Apparently they don't like Robert Robert De Niro
So
either.
catastrophic that in these trials, you'll see at the end a caution that says,
Which, by the way, I don't politically agree with Robert De Niro, but I'm on the same page with this.
we should be very careful moving forward with human trials. Well, now we have just skipped all of the animal trials, and we're going into these small human trials that will never have the challenge study part of this. So what I'm saying is we are rushing a vaccine that was deadly in the animal trials. And when you think about the money, right, you think about money, you and I both know, where there's billions of dollars to be made, you will find people willing to skip some steps if it means winning the race. And I call this the amazing race. Bill Gates and most of the people in the world are saying this vaccine will be given to all 7.5 billion people. If this vaccine is a cheap vaccine at $100, that means this product will make $750 billion to the winner of this vaccine race.
But wait, they want to double the dose and maybe even triple the dose for the seniors. So let's re-examine those numbers.
Right now, there are 100 companies in this race. I assure you, if they have a couple of missteps or a few problems, and they think, well, we can try and overcome them once the product is out, no one wants to give up that cash prize. And so I think we are watching potentially some of the worst science we may ever see. And now imagine if Bill Gates gets his wish. If the WHO manages to force vaccinate the planet, we all have to get this in order to get onto an airplane, or to be allowed back into our job, or to have the tracking app that's on our phone say he's allowed to go to the gym.
Or for your children to go back to school. Are you people paying attention? This is literally Agenda 21 unfolding in front of your eyes. And I'm trying everything I can to keep my profanity out of this.
Have to have had that vaccine. If that happens, Patrick, and they didn't overcome this problem, which they're describing, it's called antibody immune enhancement. You've had Tony Fauci allude to this. You've heard him say there's a potential this vaccine could make people more sick. Or Dr. Peter Hotez, who is actually a scientist that's attempted to make a coronavirus vaccine, he met with the Congress and said, we have this problem of antibody immune enhancement. So imagine everybody gets this vaccine. Let's imagine it's all by good scientists that think they've overcome the problem. But they don't know why it happens. They'll admit that to you. We don't know why this is happening. And they're looking at one strain of the virus. There's already 30 mutations, Patrick. What happens if we all get this vaccine, and maybe if that was fine with the virus that we came in contact with, but 2 years down the road, there's a mutation to the coronavirus. Just like there's been 30, maybe there's 70. Maybe the 71st mutation triggers this problem where it sends our immune system, and instead of protecting us, it attacks us. And now the death rate of COVID is not 0.26%. What if it's 5%? What if it's 10%? What if it's 8%?
Hey, so this is a super easy way to cool down any room in your home to as low as 65 degrees in only 6 minutes.
Yeah, I want one of them.
This is big, people, so please pay attention and bear with me while I set this up. The title, PubMed Identification and Digital Object Identifier Numbers, are all that remain of an article that was posted online July 16th, 2020 on pubmed.gov. before official publication in the Journal of Biological Regulators and Homeostatic Agents. It's a peer-reviewed journal published every 2 months. The journal publishes original papers describing research in the fields of experimental and clinical medicine, molecular biology, biochemistry, regulatory molecules, cellular immunology, and pharmacology. Before I begin narrating, please note that for purposes of adhering to this platform's terms of use and guidelines, the term crown illness will be used
Instead of COVID.
referring to the 2020 pandemic outbreak. The abstract that I'm about to narrate with you came from a screenshot that someone made before the paper was removed. Before proceeding with what I'm about to narrate, I initiated a back-end search via the U.S. Library of Medicine National Institutes of Health, their database. I searched the PMID number 32668870. The search result took me directly to the page with the paper's title, quote, 5G technology and induction of crown illness in skin cells, unquote. Directly underneath the title of the article that they removed is a message that states, quote, ahead of print, article withdrawn by publisher, unquote. This is the abstract. July 16th, 2020, PMID 32668870. 5G technology and induction of crown illness in skin cells. Abstract. Quote, in this research, we show that 5G millimeter waves could be absorbed by dermalogic cells acting like antenna, transferred to other cells, and play the main role in producing crown illness in biological cells. DNA is built from charged electrons and atoms and has inductor-like structure. This structure could be divided into linear toroid and round inductors. Inductors interact with external electromagnetic waves, move and produce some extra waves within the cells. The shapes of these waves are similar to shapes of hexagonal and pentagonal bases of their DNA source. These waves produce some holes within the nucleus. To fill these holes, some extra hexagonal and pentagonal bases are produced. These bases could join to each other and form virus-like structures, such as crown illness. To produce these viruses within a cell, it is necessary that the wavelength of external waves be shorter than the size of the cell. Thus,
I'm protected by the
5G
Lord
millimeter
Jesus Christ,
waves
because no weapon
could be
formed against me
candidates
shall
for applying
prosper.
in constructing virus-like structures, such as crown illness within cells, unquote. Narrator's note. I've provided a link on my site to the National Institutes of Health database for anyone that wishes to search the paper's PMID number for themselves. I have no information regarding why the paper was removed. However, the title and the abstract alone should be enough to make anybody's head spin. Screenshots of both the abstract and the title page are also provided on my site. This is Nancy Morgan-Hart for Headlines with a Voice.
They are rushing the science. That is what we read in every headline talking about COVID-19. I'm not exaggerating it. We are rushing science. Now let's talk about this vaccine. It is not a brand new vaccine. It is not another version of a measles vaccine. They have been attempting a coronavirus vaccine for the last at least 20 years. Very specifically since we had SARS, which was a coronavirus back in the early 2000s. Multiple drug companies have been attempting to make a coronavirus vaccine. Here's what's amazing, and I discovered in our research. Every single animal trial by all of those different drug companies and different approaches to a coronavirus vaccine had the same result. In every one of the trials, they used ferrets. It's a popular animal. I think it has a similar immune system to human beings. They gave them their trial COVID or coronavirus vaccine, and the animals seemed to be doing just fine. They would have said it's safe. Look, the animal's fine. Vaccine didn't hurt them. They even checked their blood, and they were having robust antibody production, meaning it looks like it really works. And they're probably all jumping up and down in their laboratories. But here's what happens. In an animal trial, you're allowed to go one step further than you're ethically allowed to in a human trial. That's called a challenge study, where they actually put the animal in contact with the virus. Can't do this with human beings. But they put the ferrets in contact with coronavirus, and every single one of the trials had the same problem. Instead of the antibodies protecting the animal from the coronavirus, the antibodies actually helped the virus attack their own immune system, and it overreacted. They had serious upper respiratory conditions, organ failure, what's called a cytokine storm, meaning the immune system sent their body into inflammation in brain all over. Many of the animals died. It was so catastrophic that in these trials, you'll see at the end a caution that says we should be very careful moving forward with human trials. Well, now we have just skipped all of the animal trials, and we're going into these small human trials that will never have the challenge study part of this. So what I'm saying is we are rushing a vaccine that was deadly in the animal trials. And when you think about the money, right, you think about money, you and I both know, where there's billions of dollars to be made, you will find people willing to skip some steps if it means winning the race. And I call
They'd
this
sell
an
out their
amazing
own
race.
family.
Bill Gates and most of the people in the world are saying
Pardon
this
my
vaccine
language,
will
I'm
be given
trying to
all 7.5 billion
stop
people.
dropping
If this
profanity.
vaccine is a cheap vaccine at $100, that means this product will make $750 billion to the winner of this vaccine race right now. There are 100 companies in this race. I assure you, if they...
Let's just freeze our brakes here for a minute. Be right back. I love this CBS reporter.
Earlier today, I asked Bill Gates what he makes of the results coming out from those early vaccine trials.
We don't know if these vaccines will work. We don't know if they'll work to avoid deaths. We don't know if they'll work to avoid transmission. That's why we're working on so many first-generation vaccines.
How do we know if these vaccines are working?
We'd like it to be very safe in all the populations that you indicated for, no side effects. And you'd like it to avoid the individual who gets the vaccine getting sick.
Where are we in terms of a rapid diagnostic test? You've talked about this a lot. It would be a test that is like an in-home pregnancy test. Where are those tests?
In the next 2 to 4 months, some of those tests will get approved. Now, they won't be as accurate as the PCR, which is a molecular test. And so over the...
By the way, the PCR test was invented by a Nobel Peace Prize winner who said that the PCR test should not be used. Look it up. I'm just so tired of talking to people that don't want to pay attention.
Next few months, we have to up PCR capacity. We have to get results back in 24 hours. We need both. And the delayed times that we have today are completely unacceptable. It's making most much worthless.
The president said just this weekend that the U.S. has the lowest mortality rate in the world. Is that factually correct?
Not at all. Not even close. I mean, by almost every measure.
You're a liar and a fat mouth. Of course, let me try to rewind this a moment. This is also off my channel.